Q and Review, celebrating 40 years of audio production, welcomes you to this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast, recorded from our studio in the Bishopbriggs Media Centre and by our volunteers working from home. Keep up to date with Q and Review news via our Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, or Instagram at Q and Review. That's @CUEANDREVIEW, or get in touch with us directly by emailing information@qandreview.com. That's INFORMATION @CUEANDREVIEW.com, or by calling us on 0141 772 3979. Please like and share our podcast and give us constructive feedback.
Evening Times Sport, July 14. Wedding tops of a memorable summer for Celtic's McCowan. Report by Josh McCafferty. Celtic midfielder Luke McCowan will struggle to top the past few months. A double winner with his boyhood club, the midfielder then married his partner of 10 years, Erin, in Tuscany a fortnight later. It was just so special, McCowan said. The 28-year-old was an unused substitute in Celtic's title shootout against Hearts and did not feature in the Scottish Cup final a week later. Still, the frenetic end to the season focused McCowan's mind and eased any pre-wedding nerves. And he continued, "We just had to get the double out of the way first, which was not an easy task. But luckily enough, we got that done, and I was able to go and enjoy the summer." As he reflects on his big day in a serene coffee shop at Celtic's Algarve training base, McCowan's down-to-earth nature shines through. He always handles his press duties admirably and can talk for Scotland. It was no surprise that his wedding speech went down a treat. McCowan admitted, "I didn't have time to even think about it. I didn't realise how quick a turnaround it was from photos to speeches. I'd had it written for maybe 2 to 3 months prior to going. I've been with Erin for 10 years, so if I can't come up with a 5-minute speech about her and her family, I think I'm in trouble. It was good." This time 5 years ago, McCowan was preparing for his first season with Dundee after joining on a free transfer from Ayr United. His rise to the top has been as meteoric as they come. Having all his loved ones in the same room to celebrate his wedding made McCowan appreciate what he has. And he explained, "I think that was the biggest takeaway from the wedding. Actually realising how special the group we've got. You've got so many friends that you grow up with, but everybody kept coming to us and saying, 'What a special group you surround yourself with.' When you are in this sport, you end up doing that just unconsciously, surrounding yourself with the closest people you can. It was just amazing to get everybody in the one place and celebrate the way we did. Obviously the main topic of most of the dads and the uncles was all about the double, and I just was focusing on what good music was on and what good food there was." Although McCowan will remember his special day for as long as he lives, it passed in the blink of an eye. Before he knew it, he was back at Lennoxtown, preparing for his third campaign with Celtic. And he said, "The break was short and sweet. It was almost get the wedding, head on for the week. Then Erin said to me right away, as soon as that finished, it was just back to serious mode and making sure you're ready to get back into pre-season. It's head down, work hard, double sessions every day, which are tiring but worth it. Now the games are coming every week, so that's the bonus now. Celtic begin their title defence in less than 3 weeks against McCowan's former employers Dundee. Last season's league triumph was up there with the greatest in the Parkhead club's long and storied history. And McCowan said, "You could not scrape us off the ceiling. It was incredible after the last day." But I think, regardless, even the boys who are not Celtic fans or have not grown up in Glasgow, they were the exact same. I don't think it happens a lot, but I was lucky enough to have a title win at Dundee. I wasn't ever a Dundee fan, and that was just to get the championship. Even that feeling was incredible. To go and try and replicate that on the last day of winning a title in front of that many people. Even when me and Erin were on holiday, as soon as you spoke, people would say, "Glasgow? Celtic or Rangers?" I'd say Celtic. Then they would mention the Hearts game. It was massive, and it probably took us until going on holiday and realising that many people were talking about it. It was special and just a magnificent day. McCowan said in March with Celtic third in the William Hill Premiership and 6 points behind table-topping Hearts, albeit with a game in hand, that when they are at their best, no one in Scotland comes close to matching their level. It came in the bowels of Stuttgart's arena after he scored the only goal in a 1-0 Europa League win over the Bundesliga outfit. He took some flack at the time, but McCowan was ultimately proved right. And he reflected, "It was actually more so because the squad we had the previous year had shown if we were all at it, we go and win the league. I know it's not the same season, but when you get that feeling within a squad, you know what they're capable of, especially that core group of players. If you're not doing it, you've got to have the belief that you can go and replicate those performances, which, at times, you don't do. But the results come in, and we got there in the end. It was just an incredible feeling after that final day." So, as the dawn breaks on a new season, how does McCowan top what transpired in the campaign gone by? "Go and win it again," he says. Meanwhile, Celtic forward Daizen Maeda admits he has his sights set on a move to the Premier League. The Japan international is entering the final 12 months of his contract, and manager Martin O'Neill has admitted the forward could be on the move this summer. Speaking on Japanese YouTube show Pivot, the 28-year-old said, "Since I went to Celtic, I became interested in the Premier League. I started watching a lot of Premier League games. I have a strong desire to play in the Premier League. I watch all the games. When I was in Japan, I didn't watch football at all, but when I went abroad, I was able to watch it in real time, so I naturally watched the Premier League. I was watching Atletico's game and Antoine Griezmann scored a loop shot. The next day, I scored the same loop shot, so I thought it was important to watch football." When quizzed on his Premier League ambitions, Maeda added, "I think the higher you go, the better you get." Manager Martin O'Neill told reporters at the weekend that there was a resignation around the prospect of Maeda leaving, but he hoped the versatile attacker would see out the final year of his contract. Celtic rejected a bid from Wolfsburg for the pacey forward last August, amid their long-term struggles to sign attackers. But they finally managed to buy a proven striker last week when they brought in Colombian Camilo Duran from Qarabag. Maida scored 33 goals for Celtic in the 24-25 campaign and played a pivotal role in their double-winning season last time out, with 9 goals in the last 7 matches. He also scored for Japan against Sweden in the World Cup. Maida's comments came after O'Neill opened up on the future of several key midfielders at the weekend. O'Neill admitted Celtic were braced for interest in Belgian midfielder Arne Engels and Sweden international Benjamin Nygren, and hinted that both could be on their way. Japanese midfielder Ryo Hatate looks likely to depart after falling out of favour, and O'Neill will hold talks with Callum McGregor after the captain switched agents in the wake of comments made over the club's ambition. Report by Gavin McCafferty. Evening Times Sport, July 14. Fagerson insists Scots are moving in the right direction. Rugby report by Gavin Harper. Matt Fagerson insists Scotland are building something special despite defeat in South Africa, and says he's ready for one more big performance with Scotland to bring the curtain down on a long season. Fagerson produced one of his best displays in a Scotland jersey in the defeat to South Africa, as he went head-to-head with former World Player of the Year Peter Steph du Toit. And Fagerson reflected on a hugely physical outing when he said, "The collisions were massive. It felt in the first 10 to 15 minutes we probably had to wear a few of them, especially as a forward pack. They were coming off the line. We were maybe playing a bit too deep, and we were getting caught a little bit. In that middle 50 or 60 we started playing on top of them, and a lot of gaps to open up. We knew that if we stuck to our guns we could get a result. I think that's probably the disappointing thing, that we probably let it slip a little bit and let it get out of our grasp." Despite all of Scotland's endeavours, they fell short against one of the world's best sides, and Fagerson admitted it was painful to narrowly miss out on a statement victory. And he continued, "I think part of the frustration is that we played bloody well, and it was probably just a few soft penalties here and there, and a few decisions that probably did not go our way. We had opportunities and they were on their line. I would think that if you asked any of the Springboks, they would say it was a bloody tough game. But they are a quality side. They are a 2-time back-to-back World Cup winners. It was a rotated side, but they didn't hit any less hard." The outing in Pretoria was his 27th appearance for club and country over the past 12 months, but far from looking for a week off as Fiji visit Murrayfield, Fagerson, who turns 28 on Thursday, is ready to lace up his boots once more before a summer break. And he said, "The schedule is a bit draining on the body and on the mind, and obviously spending time away from the family, but we are a very tight group and we have had a great 3 weeks together. We hope we can push on and get a win next week as well." And he insists the performance at Loftus Versfeld showed Scotland have moved on from the collapse to Argentina last November and the disappointment of defeat to Italy in the Six Nations. And he added, "Last week Argentina scored early, then we came back and we put them away comfortably, although we leaked a couple at the end. Even on Saturday, we were down 14-0 away from home against the Springboks, and we did not cave in like we saw England do it last week. We spent a lot of time as a group together, and the hurt we had from Argentina in the autumn we felt we'd righted those wrongs in the Six Nations, and we'd become a group that could recognise momentum swings, and we were trying to play on that in the middle third as well. If we had gone over the line on a couple of those chances, it might be a different scoreline. I think the lessons learned from Argentina, I feel we have moved on as a group. We're building something special, pretty special here. Over the last 5 or 6 years, we've locked in what our identity is and who we are. I think everybody's on the same page in that. Saturday's match is technically a home game for the Fijians, but the majority of the near 50,000 fans inside Murrayfield will be there supporting Gregor Townsend's side. Fagerson says a home game is the perfect way to bring the curtain down on a campaign that started almost exactly a year ago with a trip to Fiji. The Glasgow back row said, "The way the schedule has worked out, we've got the best part of the draw that we've been away for 2 or 3 weeks, and then we get to finish up at home and play in front of our friends and family." Evening Times Sport, July 15. Golf. I never expected to be here at the Open again, but I'll give it a good go. Report by Nick Roger. In the here, there and everywhere birrel that is par for the course as a touring golfer, the diary can be as jam-packed as one belonging to a great socialite. Since stepping away from full-time competition last October, though, Jack McDonald's own playing diary has not contained as many entries. There's one big one scribbled in this July week, of course. The Open is probably etched on the page in letters the size of the Hollywood sign. I was probably going to play the Boswell Castle Pro-Am this weekend on the Tartan Tour, said MacDonald with a smile that was as bright as the Southport sun. This is a nice addition. It doesn't get much bigger than the game's oldest and most celebrated major. For the second time in 3 years, MacDonald is back among the global stars for the 154th staging of the championship. As he did for the 2024 Open in his own backyard of Royal Troon, MacDonald successfully came through the 36-hole qualifier at Dundonald Links. At Troon a couple of years ago, MacDonald missed the cut in his maiden Open outing by a single shot over a course he knew like the back of his hand. The seared links of Royal Birkdale, that's as firm and fiery as the walls of a blast furnace, will be a very different test, but MacDonald is looking forward to the robust examination. And he added, "It obviously feels a bit different. I'm not as familiar with the golf course, but the Open is amazing, and everything that comes with it is very similar. I played here at Birkdale once before, during the Walker Cup week at Lytham in 2015. It's a lot different though, and I cannot really remember too much about it as it was that long ago. But with the changes they've made, it's a proper test of golf. It's running fast out there, and I don't think there is any rain in the forecast, so I would imagine that it is going to be very firm over all 4 days. The firmer it gets, the more premium there will be on hitting fairways." MacDonald, whose well-kent grandfather, Gordon Koch, played in the Jewel in the Sun Open of 1977 at Turnberry, chipped away at the coalface of professional golf for many seasons. He was a winner on the now-defunct PGA Euro Pro Tour and had a couple of close shaves on the second-tier Hotel Planner Tour. but never made it to the top rung of the European ladder. Last year, he decided to take a different path and began his PGA training. He finished his full-time playing career with a flourish and won the season-ending Tour Championship on Paul Lawrie's Tartan Pro Tour by 7 shots. McDonald may have thought his Open outing in 2024 would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. In this game, though, opportunity always comes knocking. "I'm enjoying the change in career direction," said the Barassi man, who has completed the first year of his PGA training under the shrewd tutelage of David Orr at Whitecrags Golf Club on Glasgow's south side. "Working, playing some golf, it's a mix of everything. I just wanted to work in the golf industry after I stopped full-time playing, and the PGA option was a great opportunity for me. I probably never expected to be here at the Open again, but we are, and we'll give it a good go." When McDonald first played in the Open, there was a lot to take in. He was a local lad with plenty of local support. Standing on the range next to some of the biggest names, meanwhile, was quite the experience. Here at Birkdale, the Scot has a better idea of what it's all about, and he's not the wide-eyed first-timer anymore. The Open is still a daunting proposition, but McDonald is not here to make up the numbers. And he says, "I've played tournament golf all my life, coming up through the ranks, and that feeling of belonging there is the same at every level you get to. It's like going from amateur golf to the Challenge Tour. It's the next level. The Open is the highest level, and you just have to play golf. You are always trying to climb the ladder in this game. It just so happens I'm now playing in the biggest tournament in the world. As a kid, you're always dreaming of holing a putt for the Open. To be able to play it twice is amazing." It's quite a date in his diary, says Nick Roger. Evening Times Sport, July 15. John McCafferty says, "Disappointing defeat raises concerns for Celtic. Sporting 4, Celtic 1. Goals from Jenny Catamo, Daniel Braganca and Ricardo Mangas gave Sporting a deserved 4-1 victory over Celtic at Estadio Algarve yesterday evening. The Portuguese giants scored 3 times in the space of 8 second-half minutes, shortly after new signing Camilo Duran netted off the bench on his first appearance for Martin O'Neill's side. Celtic finished the match with a makeshift team made up of fringe players and academy youngsters. If this outing was a sign of things to come for the 26-27 season, the Scottish champions could be in for another arduous campaign. Sporting were more than worth their triumph, and despite this being their first pre-season friendly, Rui Borges' men looked fitter, faster and slicker than their green and white counterparts. Here are the key talking points from Estadio Algarve. Sack the board chance already. It took Sporting 26 first-half minutes to open the scoring in the Algarve, and it didn't come as much of a surprise. Borges' side looked sharper than their opponents in the opening exchanges and deserved their lead. Sporting beat Celtic's high press on several occasions early on and opened the scoring through the impressive Guinea. Cameron Carter-Vickers, making his second pre-season appearance after returning from an 8-month injury absence, was easily beaten by Gabriel Silva, who cut the ball back for Sporting's number 10 to slot home from close range. It was all too easy. A small band of Celtic supporters near the press box began chanting, "Sack the board," after Sporting took the lead, even singing for the club to sign a player. Ominous. How did Balikwisha fare? Often Celtic's forgotten man last season, Balikwisha made his second consecutive pre-season start. The DR Congo international looked sharp against Shelbourne last week, but lacked any real cutting edge in front of goal. Balikwisha once more began as Celtic attack-minded number 10, with licence to roam around the final third. He sought to find pockets of space within the Sporting rearguard and finally prove his capabilities to O'Neill. The Celtic manager has often praised his attitude and wants to give him opportunities. This was another, but he failed to capture the imagination. The 25-year-old ghosted in and out of play as an advanced midfielder, and while he had some silky touches, he brought little to the party. Yes, the team have had double sessions on all but one of their days in Portugal, so would naturally have been fatigued going into this match, though Balikwisha's first-half performance was emblematic of his team's pedestrian, uninspiring, and ultimately ineffective play. Only so much can be taken from games like this, but in years gone by, numerous outsiders have seized their opportunities in pre-season, such as Nicholas Kuhn 2 years ago. Here Balikwisha failed to grasp yet another chance and came off as one of Celtic's 2 half-time substitutes. Duran makes immediate impression. Celtic's first summer signing survived a late sickness bout to register his maiden appearance in green and white. Duran, bought for £5.5 million from Azerbaijani outfit Qarabag last week, came on as a second-half substitute, replacing Osmond up top through the middle. The Colombian, wearing number 11, acquitted himself well and made an immediate impact. Within 5 minutes of coming on, Duran robbed the Sporting captain Eduardo Quaresma of possession inside his own penalty area. The forward kept his composure and slotted past goalkeeper Yao Virginia to level the scoreline with 20 to play. As far as first impressions go, this was fairly positive, even if Celtic were only level for the briefest periods. A mix-up at the back from Dane Murray, allowing Daniel Braganca to restore Sporting's lead. Even after the Lisbon side went back ahead, Duran was buzzing about, regaining possession for his team, and looking sharp on an encouraging, uncompetitive debut. Young guns get another chance. Celtic started the match with 11 academy youngsters on the bench. O'Neill has been impressed with their application in training over the past week, and a host were brought on in the second half. Thomas Hatton replaced James Forrest on the left wing, as Liam Kennedy came on for Callum McGregor at the base of midfield. Sean McArdle took Luke McCowan's berth on the right flank. As the number 6, Kennedy sought to drop between central defenders Make Norrocky and Murray. He was not afraid to take the ball under pressure and performed amicably. Similarly, Hatton brought energy on the left-hand side without overly standing out. The youngsters still have a way to go before becoming consistent first-teamers. Reinforcements needed. Granted, Celtic have several players returning late to pre-season due to World Cup commitments, and they did not feature here, such as Dazen Maeda Yang, Alistair Johnson, Benjamin Nygren, Kieran Tierney and Sebastian Tunekti, the line-up against Sporting failed to capture the imagination. With less than 3 weeks until the William Hill Premiership season begins, O'Neill's squad is in serious need of reinforcements, particularly in attack. Forrest and McCowan started on the flanks, but even if you add the absent Yang and Tunekti to those wide options, you would still have vast concerns. Similarly, Liam Scales starting at left-back sparks anxiety, given the only other senior alternative there is Kieran Tierney. Behind the scenes, though, nothing appears imminent. Last season, Celtic lost their Champions League playoff tie against Kairat Almaty with a subpar squad permeated with players like Maida who did not want to be there. Unless things can change dramatically over the coming weeks and months, the club could saunter towards a similar fate. Domestically, their rivals are strengthening, while from the outside looking in, Celtic stand still. There remains time to strengthen, but whether they will is an entirely different question, says Josh McCafferty. Evening Times Sport, July 15. Neil insists he will thrive in Ibrox pressure cooker. Report by Joshua Barry. Dan Neil pauses briefly before latching onto a singular word that has been put to him and surmises his move to Rangers perfectly. Challenge. Having captained his boyhood club back to the Premier League and then earned promotion to the top division in England again with Ipswich, there were plenty of offers from clubs south of the border, hoping Neil could make it a hat-trick this summer. Indeed, 2 days before he joined Rangers, the 24-year-old, a free agent, looked set to join Southampton, who thought they had won this race. Not so. The South Coast club can offer a lot, but they cannot compare with Rangers for what Neil says drives him most. Pressure, passion, a purpose for turning up and playing every weekend, the ability to make or ruin weekends. Sunderland may not have a history of winning league titles, but they are too big a club to be anywhere but the Premier League, and Neil held the burden of leading his hometown club, with the armband, back where they belong. I think that word challenge is probably the biggest word in my decision-making, he says, speaking from the club's pre-season base in Spain on his move to Ibrox. I think the last 2 years have been very successful in the Championship in England, and I wanted a new challenge, a new chapter almost, and a new goal to strive for. When Rangers came calling, I thought, this is the perfect challenge for me, and that was pretty much it in terms of my decision-making. I have played in front of big crowds every week, and had that expectation of winning. It's a massive driving factor for me day in, day out, so all those little factors tallied up to my decision. I grew up in that environment in terms of being around a first-team setup. Sunderland in League One and the Championship are a massive, massive club and should not really be there, so the demand in those leagues was to win every week and get promoted. It's something that drives me day in, day out, doing things right and preparing as well as I can for upcoming games, knowing that the fans are desperate to win, and there's almost that expectation to win every single week. It's a massive factor in the way I work every day and the character I am, and I would say it was a massive factor when I was choosing Rangers. Some externally have looked at the top line of Neil's package Released by Sunderland this summer, having not played a part in their Premier League return, as evidence of another player coming north from England looking for an easier ride. Nothing could be further from the truth. Neil lost his place to Granit Xhaka, and as Sunderland qualified for Europe, they spent over £100 million. At 24, he's on the way up instead of down. Internally, there was such a buzz at this deal getting over the line because, given Neil's temperament and quality, signing him was always seen as a reach. Earlier in June, one source told the Rangers Review that the likelihood of landing Neil seemed to be decreasing, despite a charm offensive when he visited Ibrox in May. And, as well documented by now, the club have surmised following last summer that personality is as vital as quality in the recruitment process. Neil adds, I think you can see in the recruitment this summer that getting the right characters is a big priority. The signings we have made so far have all had leadership roles at the clubs that they have been at. It was mentioned in interviews I've had, but I think it's just a natural thing that I bring, and it's the same with the boys who've come in. It's not something we're going to do out of the ordinary, it's just a natural ability we have, and we have to try and bring that into this group as much as we can. It's only been a week or two, and obviously Lawrence Shankland has just joined us on the trip after being at the World Cup. It's going to take a few weeks for everyone to bed in, and that's what pre-season is for. But from the first few days with most of the boys, there's enough there for it to be something like that. Leadership, voices and profiles are in the group now. Neil's name had been linked publicly with a move to Rangers for the best part of a year, and in another world, he would have joined in January if loan regulations at the Stadium of Light had not stopped him. And he said, yes, our move was pretty close in January. I'd spoken to the club midway through last season. There was a slight issue in terms of loans. Sunderland had a lot of players out on loan abroad. So unfortunately, it wasn't going to work for a loan until the end of the season. That's why I decided to stay in England and go to Ipswich, and I loved my time there. It was a successful end to the season, but when the interest was reignited in the summer from Rangers, I was pretty set on where I wanted to go. Neil describes himself as a midfielder who wants as many touches of the ball as possible. He should be a profile that dictates things and provide a linchpin in possession, which has been missing for years. And he said, in terms of the in-possession stuff, I want as many touches of the ball as I can get in a game. I want to go forward with the ball. I want to progress the team forward. One of the things people probably don't know, or don't see, or don't hear, is that I'm quite loud on the pitch in terms of communication and organising, and I like seeing the game from a tactical point of view. I'm pretty loud on the pitch in terms of my actual football, and it's about getting on the ball as much as I can, and trying to dictate the tempo and progress the team forward. Goals have not been a defining feature of his game in recent years, although that is more a facet of his role in the system than a lack of willingness to spring forward. And he added, I definitely think it's something I can bring. I probably haven't shown that side of my ability over the last few years, but I think that's been down to systems. Sunderland were a very young team, so even though I was still young, I had to take more of an old head approach in midfield, almost letting the kids go and express themselves. But I think it added another strength to my bow, and I learned how to play that disciplined role in midfield. I still believe I can contribute at the top end of the pitch. We'll keep working on it every single day and try to bring it out on match days. Report by Joshua Barry. Evening Times Sport, July 17. Osmond wants more than just moments this season, reveals Josh McCafferty. Celtic striker Callum Osmond is challenging himself to be more than just a moments player. Osmond scored the final goal in the dying seconds of the season in the 3-1 win over Hearts to conclude a thrilling Premiership title race for Martin O'Neill's side last season. The 20-year-old ran through to an open net unopposed as Hearts threw the kitchen sink as they desperately tried to grab a late leveller, which would have prized the title away from Glasgow for the first time in 4 decades. Osmond has replayed the goal countless times, and when asked about his recollections of that fateful May afternoon, pitchside at Estadio Algarve on Tuesday, an immediate smile came over his face. But the Jersey-born forward does not want the iconic strike to be all he is remembered for at Parkhead, and he said, "I saw something that was saying it's more about seeing if I can do it against everyone now, instead of just having big moments, a couple of big moments. I want to challenge myself to be able to do it week in, week out, and not just be a moments player. I want to stake my claim and show that I can do more than that, and be a regular, and give the same as what I've been giving in the moments week in and week out. I think that is the goal for me this year, just giving what I can give week in, week out, instead of just having it here and there." Osmond started Celtic's first 2 pre-season friendlies against Shelbourne and Sporting, currently the first choice number 9, as new arrival Camilo Duran settles in and negotiations continue over a deal to re-sign Kelechi Iheanacho. The youngster is relishing his opportunity, and he added, "I want to just try and take my chance when it comes. I think with there not being as much competition, in a sense, I've been playing more, which I'm happy about. But it is always good to have someone there as well that is pushing you, like Kelechi was last year. There were a few other boys last year who were sort of raising the standard, so it's always good to have people around. I do want to obviously push myself as much as I can, without anyone else. I don't really think about anyone else. When I'm playing, I'm thinking about just getting myself in the best position and doing the best for me, but it's always good to have competition as well." Osmond wants to hold discussions with manager O'Neill over his role for the new season, and said, "I am going to do that. I think when we get back to Glasgow, that is something I'll do. I've spoken with Sean Maloney. I've spoken with Mark Fotheringham about general stuff. I do want to sit down with the manager as well and go through that side. I'm very happy he is here. Hopefully he can make use of me this year and I can play for him and do what I do best. I'm just hoping I get that chance. I'm going to work as hard as I can, same as last year, to make sure I can put myself in the best place. I'm really happy that he's here. He obviously showed a lot of faith in me, he and the coaching staff. Hopefully it's the start of something big." O'Neill gave Osmond his competitive debut last season in the first match of his maiden interim spell back in October. The centre-forward came off the bench a few days later against Rangers and scored the goal which sealed Celtic's place in the Premier Sports Cup final. He injured his hamstring the following week, not returning until the final day of the campaign, when he netted the title sealer against Hearts. "I see that goal almost every day," Osmond admitted. "Someone either sends it to me or reminds me when I'm taking a selfie with someone. They just say, 'That goal.' I've replied to that a million times. It's really good. I think I've said I was happy it was me. I think I'm never going to get away from that goal. It's always going to be somewhere or someone's going to speak to me about it. I'm really happy about it. I think almost every person that comes up to me now mentions the goal or that day, which I don't mind at all. I can't escape that goal now. When I was on holiday in Cyprus, I just saw some lads that were doing the celebration down the road. I spotted them and I was like, nah, surely not. Then obviously they came over, but that was a funny moment. That was good fun." Osmond joined Celtic from English Premier League outfit Fulham last summer. He has not yet made a senior football appearance before moving north of the border. 12 months later, he is a double winner who scored a fairy tale goal that current teenagers will tell their future grandkids about. And Osmond admitted, "My life has changed since that goal. It feels I've been playing football for years, but no, it has changed. Everything's changed in a good way. I think it's just the thing about me, not just being a moments player, and making sure I can do that week in, week out, and give people what they want." Osmond was born in Jersey, but registered 5 caps for Wales at under-16 and under-17 level, scoring twice. But a recent rule change by UEFA means that players from the Channel Islands can now only represent England, the nation geographically closest to the Crown dependencies. And Osmond said, "I cannot represent Wales at all. My mum's English, and my dad was born in Jersey, so it would be England. I have no Welsh at all." Make those moments a more regular occurrence, and perhaps Osmond can help the 3 Lions finally bring it home in 2030, says Josh McCafferty. Evening Times Sport, July 17. DeChambeau hits back, reports Nick Rodger. You could say the silence spoke volumes. Bryson DeChambeau finished among the front-runners on day 1 of the Open here at Royal Birkdale, and then refused to speak to the media. At least his cold shoulder cooled down some of the hot and bothered golf writers. While Open debutant Jackson Suber set a sprightly pace with a 5 under 65, DeChambeau's 3 under 67 left him handily placed, but unavailable for comment. Let the clubs do the talking and all that, eh? The 32-year-old, who was sitting alongside the likes of Scotland's Robert McIntyre and past Open champion Francesco Molinari in a big posse, has not actually performed any post-round media duties at the previous 3 majors this season. He missed the cut in all of them. In the build-up to this week's showpiece, the Triple Open champion Nick Faldo stated on a Sky Sports Golf podcast that DeChambeau had zero clue of strategy when it came to links golf. Given the tinderbox conditions at Birkdale, the R&A urged all and sundry to maintain vigilance for fire hazards. Faldo's inflammatory comments just about had to be hosed down by the Merseyside Fire and Rescue Service. They must have fired up the Shambo though. Eventually, some musings from the American did appear through an R&D media official. Read this and have a guess who it could be directed at. "You've got to be a lot more strategic out on the golf course," said the two-time United States Open champion. "I feel I did a really good job of being incredibly strategic. I feel like my strategy was nice today." Zero clue of strategy? One presumes Sir Nick read all of this too, amid fistfuls of humble pie. In last year's Open at Portrush, the Shambo began with a crippling 78, but produced the kind of salvage operation usually reserved for maritime wrecks, and eventually finished in a share of 10th. His catch-up job this week is not so daunting. Ahead of him, the largely unheralded Super upped the ante on his back nine and bounded home in 31. The undoubted highlight was a cracking approach from over 230 yards on the par 5 17th, which rolled to 6 feet and spawned an eagle. This is Suber's first experience of links golf and his first trip to this side of the ponds. So, what's the 26-year-old made of it? "It's awesome," he said. "The golf is really cool, and the towns and how the train system works." We didn't have the heart to tell him that industrial action at the weekend could scupper Merseyside rail services. He could always tootle about in a hire car. "No," added Suber, "of the perilous prospect of driving on the other side of the road. I'm trying to make it here for 4 days." Dan Brown, who was something of a surprise package at Troon in 2024 and led after day one, was up there again at Birkdale as he matched his playing partner Sung Jae Im of Korea with a 66. Brown, who packed 4 birthdays into his card around the turn, still enjoys a sook on a cigarette while playing golf. In the parched conditions, he must have been given the aforementioned fire service the heebie-jeebies. "I'm probably on 7 or 8 cigarettes a round," he said, through billowing plumes of reek. Scotty Scheffler, the reigning Open champion, made an ominous start to his title defence and swiftly moved to the top of the order after covering his first 6 holes in 4 under. Having missed his first cut in nearly 4 years at last week's Scottish Open, this was more like it. But hang on. The world number one's early thrust petered out. He played his last 12 holes in a humdrum 2-over and could not hole a putt as he signed for a 68. His bogey on 17 was something of a head-scratcher as he found his ball partially buried in the rough. "I was just shocked at how deep the ball was in that grass," said Scheffler, who is aiming to become the first player to win back-to-back Opens since Padraig Harrington at Birkdale in 2008. "I was hoping somebody stepped on it, but nobody would fess up." Rory McIlroy, finishing in the lengthening shadows of a lovely evening, had a frustrating topsy-turvy day. There were short putts missed and an awkward bunker shot to contend with on 17, when he had to get down on one knee to gouge his ball out. The contortion still did not help him save his par. Ever the showman, McIlroy hit a corker into the 18th, and rolled in the birdie putt for a 2 over 72. Supper would have tasted a little bit better. Justin Rose, fourth year as an amateur back in 1998, had a tough day and struggled to a 75, while Jordan Spieth, a thrilling Birkdale champion in 2017, had to settle for a 73. Tommy Fleetwood, the local lad from Southport, was happy enough to emerge unscathed with a scrambling 1 under 69. It was a battle, he said. The Battle of Birkdale goes on, says Nick Rodger. Times Sport, July 17. Graham McGarry says, heavy-handed punishments to Watt and Motherwell set worrying precedent. There may well be no way to definitively say that it was the worst VAR decision in history, as Elliot Watt somewhat foolhardily claimed on social media in the aftermath of his Motherwell side's controversial loss to Celtic back in May, with his blood running hot. Even if high-profile figures like Gary Lineker agreed with him. But the decision toward that critical stoppage time penalty for an apparent handball by Sam Nicholson was, without doubt, the most contentious call of last season. Everyone had an opinion on it, as the likes of Lineker weighing in proved, and so clearly did Watt. But it seems that on the Scottish FA Judicial Panel's watch, expressing one's views on refereeing decisions is no longer permitted. Even if you don't call into question the integrity of their officials, but simply disagree with a decision they have made, you had better keep it to yourself. The 4-match ban meted out to Watt for his post is not only incredibly harsh, but it also raises some pertinent and pressing questions. Firstly, as the SFA's own KMI panel also disagreed with the decision, will those members who voted that the VAR team and referee John Beaton had made a blunder also be suspended? More seriously, and more importantly though, what precedent does this ban set when there are some meaty disciplinary hearings to come in the coming days and weeks? Up first is Derek McInnes, then Hearts and now Rangers manager, who will find out his fate on Wednesday after making his own views clear on the Nicholson handball incident in his post-match interview with Sky Sports at Tynecastle that fateful evening. Had Motherwell held on for the draw, of course, only an absolute tanking at Celtic Park on the final day would have denied his team the Premiership title. McInnes said, "When you heard Celtic get a 96-minute penalty that was going to VAR and they were checking it, you just assume what's happened is they get the penalty. Having seen it again, it's disgusting. It is. I don't think it's a penalty kick, but we're up against it. We're up against everybody." One can only imagine what the judicial panel will make of those comments. If they had the power, McInnes might be swapping his dapper new suit, brogues and Rangers tie for prison-issued duds from the Bar L. With notices of complaint also set to be issued imminently, relating to the Scottish Cup quarter-final between Rangers and Celtic at Ibrox, which was, you may recall, not only a rather controversial encounter, but one that took place back in March. It is quite the moment for the judicial panel to be setting a precedent for such hefty punishments. If they stay true to this form, squads will be decimated, dugouts will be emptied, and directors' boxes will be full of managers come the opening day of the season. For the record, it is Disciplinary Rule 72 that Watt and McInnes stand accused of breaching, which reads, "No recognised football body, club official, team official, or other member of team staff, player, or other person under the jurisdiction of the Scottish FA shall in an interview, a blog on the internet, on a social networking or microblogging site, or in any other manner calculated or likely to lead to publicity, criticise the decision and decisions and or performances of any or all match official or match officials in such a way as to indicate bias or incompetence on the part of such match official, or make remarks about such match official or officials which impinge on his character." Now, admittedly, it could be argued that labelling a call as the worst VAR decision in history does indeed indicate incompetence on the part of the match officials, so it's a fair cop there. But the punishment surely doesn't fit the crime. To dish out 4 matches when the surely far more serious bar of calling into question the impartiality of officials has not been met seems heavy-handed in the extreme. What's more, Motherwell themselves received a £5,000 fine, having been found to be in breach of the same rule for their own social media post the following match, and while many have assumed their offence was the wording of their post, which led with the line, "As the world of football mocks our game," I understand that the charge actually related to a single shot in their video summary of the match, which showed referee Beaton shaking hands with Celtic captain Callum McGregor in the Fir Park tunnel before the game got underway. That was enough for the judicial panel to rule that Motherwell had inferred bias, despite the Fir Park club's protestations and production of countless examples where they had shown similar footage and mitigation, and for them to dish out the £5,000 fine. Clearly, the fallout from the match at Fir Park back in May, with the eyes of a huge audience trained on Scottish football, has spurred some within the SFA to seek hefty retribution, and they will no doubt point to the police protection referee Beaton was provided in the aftermath of that match as justification for the severe punishments they have dealt to Watt and Motherwell. But where do we go from here? We will soon find out. What seems certain is that in the next few weeks, and in the season to come, club lawyers the length and breadth of the land are going to make a killing, says Graham McGarry. Evening Times Sport, July 17. Motherwell and Watt hit by SFA. Motherwell midfielder Elliot Watt has been handed a 4-match ban for his comments on the controversial stoppage time penalty awarded to Celtic at Fir Park in May. Watt described the penalty award as the worst VAR decision in history on his X account. Motherwell have also been punished at a disciplinary hearing convened by the Scottish Football Association, which charged both club and player with breaching a rule which forbids criticism which indicates bias or incompetence on match officials or impinges on their characters. The Lanarkshire club have been fined £5,000 after being cited in the wake of social media content which included the phrase, "As the world of football mocks our game." Motherwell were found guilty of the charge by the disciplinary panel, while 26-year-old Watt who is a serious transfer target of Turkish side Samsunspor, admitted the charge. A statement from Motherwell read, "The club are extremely disappointed at the outcome of today's hearing in relation to the Scottish FA's notice of complaint received by the club. The notice of complaint related to a social media post and related video that was published following our last home game of the 25-26 season. The club have requested the written reasons in relation to the decision, and thereafter we will liaise with our external solicitors on any next steps." What was already due to be suspended for Motherwell's William Hill Premiership opener at Easter Road, after being sent off in his team's win there against Hibs on the final day of last season. The former Scotland under-21 international will also be suspended for league games against Falkirk, Aberdeen and St Mirren, plus Motherwell's Premier Sports Cup opener. If he remains at Fir Park, Watt would not play a domestic game until September 2, although he could feature in the Conference League. Rangers manager Derek McInnes was also due to face the same charge over his comments on the penalty incident, but his hearing was put back to July 22. Then Hearts head coach McInnes described referee John Beaton's decision to award a penalty for handball against Sam Nicholson, on the advice of video assistant Andrew Dallas, as actually quite disgusting. He added after his side's 3-0 win over Falkirk, "I shouldn't be commenting on another game, but having seen that, it feels like us against everybody." Report by Gavin McCafferty. Evening Times Sport, July 17. Dragojevic to Rangers' latest as they close in on next signing. Report by Martin Macmillan. Rangers are close to signing Vanja Dragojevic. The club is in advanced talks to make the 20-year-old Serbian midfielder the 7th summer signing. Dragojevic, who has been capped by Serbia, has attracted interest from clubs around Europe. He has already worn the captain's armband at Partizan Belgrade in his short career. If the deal goes through, he will join Cammy Devlin, Lawrence Shankland, Ben Godfrey, Ivor Pandur, Ross McCrory and Dan Neil as new signings at the club this summer. Rangers are also looking to strengthen in wide areas and at centre-back. Derek McInnes spoke after the friendly draw against Johor Darul Ta'zim, saying, "The club has done brilliant work at this moment to try and bring in the additions that we clearly needed from last season. We want to make sure we are a more rounded squad when it comes to the bit that we're ready, but the work will be ongoing. We are still looking to try and get a couple of things done ahead of the Saint Etienne game on Wednesday. We are 2 weeks away from Dundee United, and I feel that the fitness of the players is a lot better and stronger to where we want it to be from when we set off a couple of weeks ago. Bids are expected for Nico Raskin this summer, with Connor Barron and Mo Diamond entering the final 2 years of their contracts. This could open up the possibility of another midfield addition later in the window. In their friendly match in Spain, Toche Chukwuani scored twice for McInnes' side, while Shankland wore the captain's armband, with the match ending in a 2-2 draw. The club is hoping to have more signings in place as they meet Saint Etienne on Wednesday. 2 weeks remain until their match against Dundee United, and the team is working to ensure They are in the best shape possible for the beginning of the season. Report by Martin Macmillan. Evening Times Sport, July 20. Wiley Fox gets first major title of career at the Open. Report by Nick Roger. Well, that was a nail nibbler. When Bob Charles became the first New Zealander to land the claret jug back in 1963, he had to do it in a playoff. At Royal Birkdale last night, it looked like Ryan Fox might have to do it the hard way also. In the end, though, the brilliant Kiwi would do it his way. A wonderfully executed birdie on the very last hole gave him a one-shot victory over the gallant Cameron Young as the 154th championship went right down to the wire. My kids asked me to bring home a trophy for them, and this is about as cool a one as I can bring home, said Fox, after a closing 68 for a 10-under tally. Daddy cool indeed. It had been a fascinating, fluctuating finale. For Young, there was a heck of a hang-on to endure too, with a do-or-die charge that could have featured a fixed bayonet. The American, who was 7 shots behind overnight leader Sam Burns at the start of the day, romped home with a 64 to set the clubhouse target of 9 under. It was an extremely early target too. Young teed off some 2.5 hours before the final group of Fox and Burns. As he watched affairs at the sharp end unravel, he must have twiddled his thumbs into callous stumps. At one point, it looked like nobody would catch him. Fox, though, stepped up to the plate and seized his moment like a true champion. 1 over for his first 12 holes, the 39-year-old made a telling thrust with a brace of birdies at 13 and 14 to move into a share of the lead. Winning an Open is not easy, of course. On the par 3 15th, Fox had to come out of the bunker backwards, and he leaked a shot to drop off the summit. Young's aforementioned thumbs were going like the clappers. Cometh the hour, cometh the Fox. He made a birdie on the 16th, and despite spurning another birdie chance from 10 feet on the 17th, he stood on the 18th knowing another gain would earn him golf's ultimate silver lining. That's easier said than done, but a super drive, followed by a beautifully flighted 9-iron to 11 feet, set up an Open winning birdie putt. He gobbled up the opportunity with total authority. Looks can be decepting, mind you. Everything was shaking, admitted Fox, after joining Charles, Michael Campbell, and Lydia Cole on an exclusive list of major golf champions from New Zealand. I guess everyone practices on the green and says, "You've got a putt to win the Open." It's not like that in real life. It's not a very comfortable feeling, but it's certainly very enjoyable when you see it go in. Gary Harvey, the Scot who chisels the champion's name onto the claret jug, could finally get engraving. He's had tougher jobs. This one was a mere 7 letters, a magnificent 7, you could say. In his previous 28 major championship appearances, Fox had never managed a top 10 finish. What a way to end that run! It's unbelievable, surreal, crazy, added Fox, the son of the All Blacks rugby great, Grant. I don't have enough words in my vocabulary to explain it, to be honest. I did say to my caddy on the 18th tee that we were going to take it on, that I was going to try to win the tournament, and I'd live with the consequences if I stuffed it up. That drive is not a very comfortable tee shot, so to hit it in the fairway and give myself a chance was huge. Young deserved a huge amount of credit for his bold offensive. The 29-year-old, who was runner-up in the 2022 Open at St Andrews, was 10 under for the championship, playing the last, but he landed in the bunker off the tee, and his 6-iron out of the sand clipped the lid of the trap and squirted out right. His third shot found another bunker at the greenside, and he came close to holing out from there with a heroic effort. The resulting bogey, though, would prove costly in the final analysis. I'm proud and I'm grateful that I was the one that made the run up the board today, he said, of his valiant assault. Burns, the 54-hole front-runner, got to 11 under early in his round, but 3 bogeys in a row from the fourth let the rest back in. He eventually finished third on 8 under. As the leaderboard became ever more congested, Si Woo Kim of Korea had a stint at the top before falling away, while Scotty Scheffler, the defending champion, and local lad Tommy Fleetwood both threatened before rearing up 3 shots short in share of 4th on 7 under. My dream of winning the Open will carry on, and I'll continue to chase it, said Fleetwood, who began his day with a massive birdie putt on the first that was as long as Lord Street. For a jubilant Fox, meanwhile, that Open dream had come true. Meanwhile, Rory McIlroy will belatedly celebrate his Masters success as he takes a break following a frustrating week at the Open. The world number 2 admitted he was stuck in neutral for most of his 4 rounds at Royal Birkdale and will head home after finishing 1 under par. McIlroy was impressive off the tee, but his approach play was not of similar standard, and he could not find his touch on the greens. Still, having won the Masters for a second time in April, he can reflect on a successful year, even if his performances in the last 3 majors have been underwhelming. He said, "I was just sort of stuck in neutral for most of the week. Even par over the weekend is not going to get it done. I just felt any time I got a little bit of momentum out there, I seemed to make a bogey. It was just one of those weeks I couldn't get it going. This season feels very similar to last season. Obviously I won the first major of the year and fell off a little bit after that. But any time you win a major in a year, you have to be pleased about that. I haven't really taken the time to enjoy that or celebrate that. Poppy's got another 4 weeks off school until she goes back, so I'm just going to enjoy the summer holidays with her and Erica. That's what I'm looking forward to the most." McIlroy, a 6-time major winner, has said previously he feels he can now pick and choose the tournaments more than previously. Asked if it was true, the prospect of competing week in, week out on the PGA Tour no longer got his juices flowing. The 37-year-old told reporters, "Yes, that's fair. I think it just sort of ebbs and flows. There's been years where I've given it maybe more of my attention, and years that I haven't. I guess I'm just at a stage that I have other things that I prioritize. I came to that decision last year, and I'm just sort of doing the same thing." Evening Times Sport, July 20. Rangers learn Europa League opponents. Report by Stuart Wilson. Rangers have learned their opponents for the Europa League third qualifying round. Derek McInnes will take his first steps as Rangers manager in Europe next month, as he looks to make it to the league phase of the competition at the first time of asking. Now, following the Europa League draw, which took place at 12 o'clock today, Rangers have been drawn against Polish side Jagiellonia Białystok in the third round. The first leg of the tie will take place on Thursday, August 6th, while the second leg will occur 7 days later, on Thursday, August 13. Meanwhile, Rangers winger Oliver Antman has opened up on his difficult first season at Ibrox and admits he was beaten to the ground if he made a mistake. The Finnish international moved from the Netherlands a year ago in a £3.5 million deal and was hyped as a major signing, but the 24-year-old made just 8 league starts and scored only once in an underwhelming injury-hit first campaign. However, Antman is determined to make up for lost time under Derek McInnes, because he now knows what it takes to play for Rangers, and said, "Last season was quite a disappointment in every way, personally and as a team. Rangers' goal is to win everything we are involved in, the league and the cups. Finishing third is unacceptable at this club. Rangers are an absolutely massive club. It's really hard to put into words how big a club it is. Every time I meet Rangers supporters, they say that this is the best club in the world when we are successful. Of course, the downside is that when things are not going well, this can be a really difficult place to be. I have a little experience with that already. This is, of course, a shame. No matter where you walk in the city, someone will recognize you, and you have to be ready to talk to everyone. It shows how great it can be if things go well. But sometimes it feels if you make one mistake or lose the ball, you will be beaten to the ground. When you play here, you really feel the pressure." And Antman, in an interview in his homeland, believes he can thrive this season and said, "Rangers spent money on me. There is no pressure for that, but there are 50,000 really passionate fans at every home game, so there is a certain pressure from that. This is different from what I am used to in Denmark and the Netherlands. Rangers is definitely an environment where I can develop. I have never played for such a big club before. Everything is more hands-on. You learn from every coach, but the biggest thing is being at this club."
That concludes this week's edition of the Glasgow Times Sports Podcast. Please remember to subscribe to our channels at Q&Review and to tell your friends about our service